Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Around the Pin, the official Golfletes podcast sponsored by Smashletes. My name is Ryan, and I am the creator and owner of the Smashletes brand, and I want to thank you all for tuning in to our 9th episode of Around the Pin. Today I'm joined by my co-hosts, Bryan Doss, Scott Shearer, and Hunter Hollis. We'll be going over a handful of topics in and around the world of golf, including a recap of the US Open this past weekend, an embrace debate over the evolution of the game, our Genius of the Week, and finishing off the show with our picks for the Corrales Puntacana Resort and Club Championship this upcoming weekend. The Golfletes crew and I love doing these podcasts, and we do appreciate the ever-growing support each week. Stay tuned to the end of the show to find out where to submit your questions to an upcoming podcast. So, grab a drink, sit back in your golf carts, and enjoy this week's episode of Around the Pin.
Welcome into today's episode of Around the Pin. We have a ton of great topics for you today. But first, this week's episode is brought to you by Smashletes. Smashletes is your one-stop shop for all the latest and greatest baseball content, and it's founded by Ryan Tao. We could not be here without Smashletes, so thank you, Tao. Find Smashletes on Instagram by typing in @Smashletes. And lastly, before we start today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media. That's @Golfletes on Instagram and TikTok, and Golfletes1 on Twitter for your daily dose of the fairway. Find this episode and any other episode of Around the Pin wherever you fulfill your podcast needs. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and if you want to see our lovely faces, you can find our episodes on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get the ball rolling. The U.S. Open. We have to talk about it.
Oh, yes, we do.
I guess I've already talk about it. I've already ruined it for the listeners because I am here. I have not quit. I am not going to quit.
It's a shame, really.
I want people to think I'm going to quit. All my haters. I want them to think I'm going to quit because I'm not.
I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not leaving.
Exactly.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
Bryson DeChambeau pulls it out, wins $2.2, almost $2.3 million at 6 under par at Winged Foot, a course where the superintendent said he would be surprised if anyone shot under par, especially the winning score. Let me rephrase that. He said he would be surprised if the winning score was under par, which the winning score was. It was 6 under for Bryson, and it was the only final score of under par. So Bryson definitely played his butt off. We'll get more into that.
It's nice to hear you say that, Scott. It really is.
I know. I'm doing it because I got to, man. I'll be honest with you.
He did.
We got some more for Bryson later on in the show. Get to that later, but we will continue to talk about the U.S. Open. Dude, Winged Foot kicked butt, man. Winged Foot.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, my gosh. It was so interesting to see just how much of a struggle those guys had with this course. And the first thing that I do want to bring up is Danny Lee, who he's the guy that you probably have heard about, maybe not have seen the video. I think we did release it on our Twitter, but he was the guy that six-putted on 18 green before he shortly after withdrew from the tournament. He was the one that six-putted.
What a
I think
nightmare.
that just goes to show you. It just goes to show you how hard that course was.
I could just see the frustration that he had. It reminded me of us when we go play. You miss a 4-foot putt, and the first thing you think is, damn it! You just want to go over there and just do exactly what he did. Just tap it until it goes in.
Wasn't it all from within 4 feet?
Yes.
All 6 putts
them.
were all... Yeah.
And it made it worse because it was at the point where he was getting so angry just from the first missed putt that he started just walking up and tapping it. He didn't look, get behind it, didn't measure it up or anything, and it just made it worse.
Been there.
I think we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Difference is we count it as a single stroke.
Still a cheater. Yeah, that's the only difference. He has to count all those, which is probably why he withdrew after that. But here's the one that I really wanted to talk about. Patrick Reed's still a cheater, everybody. He is still a cheater. He's not turned from his ways.
Okay,
if you
Scott.
Follow us on Twitter.
I wanted to talk to you about this.
You saw the video. It was zoomed in. You can't get any more close to the club face than what this camera gave you. And he clearly pressed down the grass.
Dude, the man put his club on the ground.
No. There was pressure
You can't
on the ground. You can see it.
You put the club on the ground. It's what we do every time we line the ball up. You put it up.
Look, gravity.
You literally line the ball up. You're going to put it on the ground. It's going to flatten the damn grass, Scott.
So he wasn't flat. Okay, that was in the rough, though. He was not flattening the rough. He was flattening the rough, and then he kept going.
Dude, if anything, I'm going behind the ball, and I'm taking a practice stroke behind it to clear it all out.
Look, you know what? We can spend the whole rest of the podcast just talking about why you just refuse to hate the most hated golfers in golf. Okay? You like Bryson. Nobody else likes Bryson but you. You like Patrick Reed for some reason. You want to defend Patrick Reed. He's a cheater. Okay? Just admit that he's a cheater and you don't like him.
He did cheat the last time in the sand. He did. This is different. Just looking at it, it looks like how we do it. You literally line up the shot. You're going to press it down. You're not trying to cheat. There's a difference. If he would have just stroked it on back a couple times like he did with the sand, that would have been different.
But what's the famous saying? Cheaters gonna cheat. Cheaters gonna cheat.
And haters gonna hate, so just play the game.
I got my bag. I can get my clubs out again, and we can talk about how to smash the grass down.
Gosh.
It's there. We can do it again. Flashbacks.
You're going to get me fired up, and we're not even 5 minutes into this episode, Tal.
I think the camera angle could have been better. We need a second camera angle.
Yeah.
We need a second camera angle.
I agree.
I think that's fair.
But the fact that it's Patrick Reed
that I agree. It doesn't help his case. But I wanted to look at it when I saw you tweet about it. I wanted to look at it as like, all right, I get what he did before. I don't want to have to use that against him. I want to try and look at it unbiased.
Well, that's like if a murderer goes to jail and somehow gets out of jail and he goes back to court for something completely different later on. You're not going to look back and think, oh, this guy was a murderer at one point. He cheated already. Cheater's going to cheat. It's okay. It's fine.
I'm just saying, there's a difference between flattening the grass and Jesse Kelly moving it a club length at all times.
I was waiting for it.
Hold on, we got to give the guy a break. He's not here this week. We can't slam him without letting him defend himself.
Yes, we can.
Golf.
Yeah, we can.
Oh man.
I mean, we can.
That's true.
I mean, look. To be fair, he's better than all of us. He's better than all of us, so we can make jokes about him.
Somerville.
Or now.
That's a good point, Brian. That's a good point.
We only play at Somerville anymore, so how about we know who's better?
I tried to offer a neutral site, but no one would respond.
False. I went and played at Memphis National recently.
There you go.
Did you say and?
Who didn't go with you?
Oh.
Yeah. And what happened?
Well, oh dear. So, it's been 2 weeks since I played. I went out there right after work. I didn't warm up. I just stepped in the tee box. First hole, +4. +4. Second hole, +5. Third hole, bogey. Fourth hole, bogey. Fifth hole, par. Sixth, par. And 7 par. And then we had to cut it off because it got dark.
Oh, man.
But you could tell when I fixed it. I was like, all right, I'm warmed up now, and I actually played well.
10 over through 7.
Yes.
Not a bad day.
That's not bad.
As you kept parring out.
Yeah, exactly. I parred out, which helped me. It made up for the shit game that I played to begin with.
Yeah, but you got to par the other 9 holes too, and then you might find something.
And I may. You never know. It got dark.
I
could have shot a 71 on the day. I could have came back and shot 8 birdies after that.
No, you wouldn't have.
You don't know that.
It's possible.
Exactly.
Let's talk about one more thing as far as the U.S. Open is concerned, and it'll kind of help us merge into our next topic. Tal, you actually sent me this tweet, or you sent it in the group, and the tweet was in reference to Matt Wolff and his TV time. And as soon as I read it, I was like, I thought about it, and just for the listeners at home, basically the tweet was saying Matt Wolff is in contention on Saturday, going into Sunday at the U.S. Open, and we haven't seen one shot of him on TV. He's not getting the publicity he deserves, not getting the love, all, chit-chat, yada, yada. And I think I have a difference in opinion than you do, Tal. I don't know about Bryan and Hunter. So let's talk about this really quick. I just don't think that it's really an issue in the first place. Because here's the thing. Matt Wolff was a big star coming up. He's still coming up because he's still super young. And kudos to him for playing so good this week. I mean, to play that course, swing foot, such a hard course, and then being the U.S. Open and, being in contention for the latter part of Sunday, yes, I think he now deserves to be back on TV in a feature group. But we've given him his chance to be in a feature group already. We've given him his chance in the light. I'm not going to say he disappointed, but he wasn't what we maybe were looking for. So, in my opinion, I think you got to earn your TV time on the PGA Tour with as many guys as we have golfing out there. But, I don't think it's an issue. I think you earn your TV time. He'll get back on at some point. But as it stands this weekend, before this weekend happened, there was no reason to just give him every shot on TV. If that makes sense.
No, and I agree with that. Not every shot. Like you said, coming through the season and, into this new season, obviously he's had his chance, right? But when you look at this tournament specifically, he's playing insane, right? He's one of the guys that has the potential to win it. I'm not saying that he deserves it because he played great an entire season. I'm saying when you look at it from this tournament's perspective, it is a big tournament. Maybe because he is there, give him a little bit. If he is a lesser-known guy because he is so new to the scene, so new to the PGA Tour in general because he is so young, but if he's playing this good, at least show something. I don't think it's personally that big of a deal because I don't get to watch it as much. But I think give the credit where it's due when he's playing that well.
Right. I do agree. I want to hear from Hunter and Bryan. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's fair. I don't know all the inner workings of how they schedule who they're going to show, who they're not going to show, in terms of just how NBC's working all of that. But I'm sure sitting down before Saturday happens, they probably have it planned out saying we're going to cover players X, Y, Z and these different groups. And he just didn't happen to fall in that group. So they probably can't, all of a sudden look around and say, oh, man, Matthew Wolff's lighting it up. We better just pick every cameraman we got up, carry it over to the fairway.
And I agree.
Make it work.
I do agree with that.
But you do at some point have to say, holy shit, this kid is like running it. I think he was 5 under for the day, or he finished at 5 under throughout the day in the lead. And you probably ought to figure something out. Maybe catch him as, guys are finishing up and you tail off or something like that. But I see it from both sides.
I think the big issue that I had was it was going into Sunday, right? They had this entire tournament to watch him play this well. And then going into the last day, it's like, where can you get any type of TV time to show off how well this kid has played, right? I feel like because it's been 2 days throughout the tournament, you have an idea of, all right, he has a potential to win this. Maybe find some type of time right after a commercial, right before it, or something to at least show a shot.
I think it does go back to it was a good point with the whole scheduling thing. I don't think that it was so much that like we just don't want to show Matt Wolff, but I think it was just a scheduling issue where they probably had everything planned out, even probably up to not Sunday because they did show him on Sunday, but up Saturday, and it just didn't work out for him.
And I would like to agree with that idea. I think the schedule is so important. And makes a lot of sense as to why he didn't show up the first 2 days for sure. I feel like you just got to look at how well he did play and at least try to find some type of opening.
I'll say this about it. I got the chance to watch a good bit of golf today, which they did show a good bit of Matthew Wolff today.
Shit, they showed every shot.
Just about, yeah. But here's the thing. If you listen today closely to the announcers, they kept referring back to they would show clips of Matthew Wolff playing college tournaments and winning college tournaments. And then they would talk about how, he has won this tournament, and he's only 21. And if he wins this tournament, the only other people that have done that are Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. And he's won earlier this year, I believe, has he not?
Yes.
So why would he have 0 shots on him to begin with on Saturday when a guy like Roy McIlroy, who's been around the league for a while but hadn't won a major since he was 25, he still gets TV time?
Yeah.
Boom.
I think the problem with that is he's such a big name in the world of golf. A lot of
He
people
is a
know.
big name.
A lot of people know who that
Yeah.
is, and a lot of people don't know who Matthew Wolff is because he's so young. And I think that's a big problem with it. It makes a lot of sense as to why you see Rory more than you do see him.
And people forget how long Roy's been on tour, man. He's been on tour a long time.
Long
He's in his 30s, isn't he? Like late 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been out there since. Man, I remember when he was swinging Nike clubs back there. I mean, he was toe for toe with Tiger with the neon green Nike clubs and
Oh
the
yeah.
baggy pants, and it's been a while, man. People forget that because he looks so young. He doesn't age, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
But I'm glad you kind of bring up that side of golf, talking about younger, and then talking about Jack and Tiger, because we're going to embrace debate. That's going to be our next topic in our next segment for the episode. Embrace debate is where we'll throw out some topics and we'll debate them. Easy as that. So today's embrace debate topic is the evolution of the game of golf, and we'll start this off like this. I saw this stat or a few stats, and it was a comparison between Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus. So I'll read it off. This is pretty amazing to me. It kind of dunked onto me when I read it. But together, Tiger Woods and Jack, in their first 22 majors, Jack won 7, Tiger won 8, right? You see that and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, two of the best golfers ever walked the planet. It's cool. In those 22 majors, Jack was 40 over par, plus 40. Tiger was 81 under par. That's a 121 stroke difference in 22 majors. Can you believe that?
Do you think that's due to club technology?
I think it has a lot to do with club technology. But, Tiger and Jack have been compared for a long time. I mean, it's not – I think golfer-wise, they probably are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Jack probably is, as much of a good golfer as Tiger is. But like you said, that's a good point. Tiger swung completely different clubs than Jack did. Even when they played at the same time, they still swung completely different clubs. But I'll say this last stat, and we'll really get into this. In 4 majors, Tiger won in a row from 2000 to 2001. He took 55 fewer strokes than his nearest competitor. And that just blows me away. That really just shows you what kind of golfer Tiger is, man.
Tiger is
We talk a lot about
just
Tiger on here.
insane. You look at
Insane.
how he has played in this, especially in the era where he was just basically a god amongst men in the world of golf.
Mm-hmm.
It's leagues above anybody. It
Okay.
almost doesn't make sense how he was so good.
I mean, 55 fewer strokes than his nearest competitor, and this is majors, guys. This isn't talking about the Joe Blow Open.
Wow.
This is majors.
Yeah.
It's insane. But, so let's take that, okay? And this is going to be our embrace debate topic for today. It's the evolution of the game of golf, but it's kind of centered around the body. So I read this really good article this week. It was called The Modern Body in Golf, and that's what I want to debate. Is it good or bad? Okay, so a lot of what the article talked about is the ways that golfers are training now. And here's some tidbits from the article. There was a piece talking about Dustin Johnson. Obviously, Dustin Johnson is one of the beginning guys. He was a forefront guy for weightlifting and whatnot. And if you've ever seen a Versa climber, is what it's called. It's basically it's a piece of equipment that stands up, right? And you grab with your hands and then you step onto it. So you're basically standing up. And the way they compare it is where it looks like you're like climbing up a wall like Spider-Man. So you're chugging your arms and your legs at the same time, alternating. So and it can count like how many stories you can climb doing that motion. And it said that on a Versa climber, DJ in like full bore, full out, as hard as he could go for 30 seconds straight without stopping, he climbed the equivalent of 18 stories. 18 stories. Like,
Wow.
think about how long it takes to go up 18 stories in an elevator. 18 stories in an elevator takes like a few
long time.
minutes.
Yeah, it takes
30
a
seconds
sec.
to climb 2 stories, and then I'm out of breath.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. But and then another thing, it said he took like a breather. So it didn't say how long he took, but it said he took a quick breather. That's word for word, quick breather, and he did it again. And it's just amazing when you hear these stories, because I think there's this stereotype or like this misconception that golfers aren't fit, right? That golfers don't weightlift, and it's completely false. Dustin Johnson can also dunk a basketball in bare feet. He's been seen doing that. Brooks Koepka has also been seen dunking a basketball in bare feet. Brooks Koepka is another guy. Tiger Woods is a guy. Tiger Woods is the forefront in weightlifting and golf. I mean, he was the beginning of all
He
that.
did. He started getting big.
I remember when he was huge, and they thought he was on roids because he was so big.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
It's insane. And so the last thing that I'll say before we're gonna bust this thing open. It was Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka's trainer, because they're really good buddies. They train together in the off season. But he was quoted saying, "In the times of Gary Player, the common misconception was, no, you shouldn't lift weights, you shouldn't swing a baseball bat. There are a lot of things you weren't supposed to do," which is true. I mean, that's something that even I grew up, knowing, because we all played baseball growing up, and we were all probably told, maybe not me because I was a pitcher, but you guys that hit, like especially Tal, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times during your career of baseball, like, hey, don't go play golf because it'll mess up your swing.
All the time.
Not that playing baseball affects your golf game like physically or vice versa. But it's just saying in golf, there's so many stereotypes and these things that people say, like, no, don't do this because it's going to screw your game up. And we don't even really know if it's true or not. That's just it's like an urban myth.
Yeah.
And weightlifting was one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this. Is it good or bad? This is going to be the debate. And we see guys like Bryson DeChambeau, right? Protein shakes 6 times a day. He's in the weight room, however, who knows how many times a day. And he is kind of the perfect example, the perfect, picture of your modern golfer. So we'll say, is he good or bad? Not he, but is that type of golfer good or bad for the game of golf?
I want to say this right off the bat. We're talking about golfers that started lifting weights, like heavy weights, getting bigger, stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did Bryson DeChambeau just do?
He just won the U.S. Open.
He just won the U.S. Open. I'm not saying, like he said, that it's because he's stronger, can swing a club faster. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, you look at just fitness in general, I think that it does help a golfer's case a lot.
It's a long game, and Hunter has alluded to this before too, that just walking an 18-hole round is tough in itself, because we always, we cart everywhere we go. Everywhere we go play, we have golf carts. We're not a walking group, but Hunter is we're just not. It's just facts. We're not a walking group.
It's true.
But Hunter, you've been one of the guys in our group that has probably walked just out of circumstance more than most of us, and you've talked about how hard it is just to walk 18 rounds, and that's just playing golf. That's not speaking on any kind of weightlifting.
Right. No question.
So I mean, what would you say as far as, so you're walking 18 holes. Now, granted, these guys don't have to carry their bags either, but they are walking and they're playing, and now they're getting in the weight room and they're completely changing their bodies. I mean, what would you have to say knowing that?
It definitely, I always joked about it, but it's true. I mean, I have a pretty light bag that I always carry. I don't carry a ton of balls when I walk, so it's not like I'm loaded down. They probably can't have heavier bags than I do, but I know they have caddies. But still, by the 12th hole, I could just feel myself, legs getting tired, swing was getting kind of lazy, of just, after walking a while. The course that we walk quite a bit is a long course. It's probably, 7,500 or so. So it takes a little while to get through, but it just kind of depends. But I'll also say, the first thing I thought of when you brought up this topic, Scott, was, I pitched when I played college and high school. And a lot of times, especially when I got into college with a lot, more professional weightlifters or strength coaches that knew what they were doing, there was a lot of focus around, if you got too big, it messes with that, range of motion, and all of a sudden your pecs and your shoulders are huge and you can't get your arm through right. I don't know if there's an extent to a golf swing like that. I mean, I think you'd have to look like Hulk Hogan's chest to be able to not get the golf club around, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an extent to where you get too big to where it messes with your range of motion.
I like that argument that you have there. I've heard the argument for years. I was going to use the comparison of pitching to this, where with pitching, you have conditioning to do. The more you can condition your body to go longer, the longer you can go in a game. You got to pitch 9 innings. These guys got to walk 18 holes and play. It's pretty much similar, right? 3 to 4 hours that you're playing golf, and walking the holes 3 to 4 hours you're pitching if you were to pitch a full game. I think that it is a good comparison to look at. Can you get too big, right? Like you said, we've heard that our entire lives, that if you get too big, you're not going to be able to throw a baseball. But my thought is, you can get bigger and bigger, but flexibility is also a big part of that, and staying fit. If you can be flexible, getting bigger isn't that big of an issue. My team, as I like to say, my coach raised a bunch of ogres. Like, he made us gigantic. Everybody on my team, Scott, you know, because we played you. Everybody on our team was some corn-grown boys, huge.
I've said that to you before, actually.
Yeah,
we've talked about this. How different you guys looked than anybody else.
We're just a big team. Like, we're a home run based team. So we have a lot of power, a lot of guys that can throw a baseball really hard. And we work out a lot. We work out hard. And we still play well because we have our flexibility as well. So I think with golf, it would be the same thing. We're sure you can get a lot stronger, but if you stay flexible and keep your body, like, you know, mobile, I don't think it'll affect it as much.
Well, you know, one thing that I think about when talking about Bryson, I think, and shout out math class, I learned this in math class. You have any kind of database or anything that you're like analyzing, you have outliers, right? And an outlier is basically the farthest point on either end. And so I think Bryson is definitely an outlier.
Dude, he is as stiff as a board. Stiff as a board.
Well, he's just the biggest, strongest dude that you can think of in golf, right? So he's going to be like that top guy. So I hate to use an example of him because it's not good to use an example of an outlier, but it's just, this is what I think of is how many people, I won't even say on tour because a lot of those guys probably could if they just really dedicated to it, but how many people can honestly, realistically say that they can look exactly like Bryson at any point? Probably not. I mean, not a lot of them. Bryson is a freak.
He's a freak.
Man among boys.
That's like trying to look like DK Metcalf in football as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's like trying to do that or looking like LeBron James.
He's a professional athlete. They're all just freaks in nature. It's like those linemen that run 4.6 40s and they weigh 350 pounds. They're just professional athletes that are freaks in nature, and Bryson just happens to be the golf version of that.
100%.
Yes. So here's where I think it's bad for the game of golf. People are going to see Bryson. Kids are going to see Bryson. They want to win the U.S. Open one day. Kids who have golf aspirations that grow up in America and probably outside of America as well, more than likely have the aspiration to win the U.S. Open, just like us baseball players grew up and envisioned ourselves playing wiffle ball in the yard all the time, winning the World Series, right?
Yes.
How many of them can actually be Bryson? Probably none of them. Right? We'll probably never see another Bryson again. Will we see guys that hit the ball as far as Bryson? Yeah. I mean, Joaquin Neiman, we talk about him all the time, is the size of Bryan. No offense, Bryan. You're just you're just a normal-sized dude, man. But Joaquin Neiman, size of Bryan, he's 150 pounds, and he hits it toe for toe with Bryson. But how many kids can be Bryson? Probably none of them. And that's where it's bad for golf, in my opinion, because I don't want a kid to see Bryson and think, I want to play PGA golf, I want to be a professional, and I want to win the U.S. Open.
So I'm going to get massive.
You got to look like, either that or the thought is, if I got to be like Bryson to do it, I might as well not even try. I might as well go do something else. So at what point is it bad to where it's discouraging kids to play because they can't be him?
Well, I thought Bryce had a great post-round interview, and they were talking about, his style of play and what he does and all of the science behind it. And he was like, look, I'm playing my game. I don't think I'm going to change the way golf is played. I don't intend to change the way golf is played, but this is the way I want to play, and this is how I'm going to do it, and it works for me. I don't think it's going to work for anybody else. It might, but I also, I don't think he's out there looking to say the way I'm doing it is right. It's just right for me.
I'll just say this. Like I said earlier, I watched a lot of golf today, and on the first tee box, the last group was Matthew Wolff and Bryson DeChambeau, and they both pull-out driver, and Matthew Wolff outdrove Bryson by like 20 yards. And they said averaging throughout the whole entire U.S. Open, Matthew Wolff was averaging a farther drive than Bryson DeChambeau. So with that being said, I don't think you have to be, like you were alluding to, Scott, you don't have to be some big, bulky dude just to hit the ball far. There's a lot more science behind hitting the ball far than just being a big, bulky dude. So
I think that's a good stat, too.
Yeah. And it works. Like Hunter said, it works for Bryson, and that's awesome. Matthew Wolff has a weird swing, but it works for him, and that's awesome. As long as the game doesn't change or transition into like some type of weird type of game than what it is now, I think it's okay.
If we see a bunch of Happy Gilmores pop up on the course that literally just have a completely different swing, run and just bomb it. I feel like that might influence a lot of people to be like, okay, wait, let's rethink this drive tactic here because that's working. But I'm with you. I don't think looking at guys like Bryson will do too much because there is guys like Matthew Wolff that did outdrive him at times.
You have to look at both sides of the spectrum because you look at a guy like Bryson that's huge, and you look at a guy like Wolf that's not that big. I think it all comes down to, and I think anybody could tell you this, that it's all comes down to just your shoulder turn. And like Tao said, it's all about flexibility. How far back can you get behind that ball before you start coming back through? And that's ultimately your whip. But then you also look at, there's a guy, I remember, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I just happened to flip on golf and I was trying to find, just looking at the tournament. It was a tournament that DJ won by like 30 strokes. And Harry Higgs is out there competing. The dude's built like a frat star with his shirt unbuttoned down to here, just throwing it all out there.
I saw that guy. Oh, I did see that guy.
The dude looks like the epitome of the American golfer, and I love it. And I hope for the best for old Harry because I want to see more out of him. That's all I have to say about that. I don't think he's working out much, though. I don't think he's climbing 18 stories and 30
I
seconds.
did see that. He reminds me of how
he's drinking 18 beers.
18 beers.
It reminds me of like John Daly. You look at him on the course, like the guy can still play.
Yeah.
But it's not what you see, or like not how we play, not how we look when we're out there on the course. We're relatively fit guys compared to that. Like, but the guy can still play. He can still win different tournaments if he really goes out there and tries. That's what's so. The game is so weird, man.
Even before John Daly got like the beer gut he got, he used to do long drive competitions. I remember they would. If you go back on Instagram, I'm sure you can find some of John Daly clips with. I can't think of the other golfer's name off the top of my head right now, but there's one, and this is years ago, where there's not real great technology, and he is bombing drives. A relatively slender dude bombing drives over 300 like it's nobody's business.
And that's the thing. When we talk about the change, the modern body in golf, you can go back before John Daly was playing. Those guys. I mean, not only were they older. Now we've got a lot younger guys, but they're older, and none of those guys weightlifted, man. None of them did. Back in the days when, like, I guess the best representation I can think of is like, the movie Caddyshack. It's like the 70s, 80s. Like in those days, those guys did not weightlift. They played the game of golf, and they were PGA professionals because they were just good at golf. The skill set that they were given, not because they got in the weight room. Worked out. And it's crazy because golf is not the only sport that's going through this. It's every sport. It's because technology in general has just raised the stakes, and now it's like you got 16-year-olds throwing 97 miles an hour in baseball, and you got 6-year did you see the clip this weekend of the 6-year-old that was playing football for the very first time, and he was like 2 foot taller than everybody else? He was like running over kids. It's like, obviously that doesn't have. That's not like a weightlifting thing, but it's just the way that sports are evolving, and I think golf is one of the most unique sports that we see it in. So I think it's good.
To add on to that, Scott, before we move on, this is what makes golf fun. Is guys like us can still go out there and play leisurely golf, however we see best fit, without having to grind every day in the weight room, all that other stuff, just to compete. Whereas like baseball, you can't really, well, I guess you could. It's a lot harder just to get a group of guys to go out there and play a game of baseball, just leisurely. You know what I mean? And that's what I think makes golf special compared to all the other sports.
If I tried to throw a baseball right now, my whole arm would fall. Like, it would just disintegrate.
Oh, gosh.
I'm going to be honest. I bet I could still throw a ball 90-something. I bet I could. If I were to pick it up, warm up, I bet I could.
But I'd be laid up for a year.
Oh.
I was going to say one more thing since you started talking about technology. And we talked about The Greatest Game I Ever Played, the movie not too long ago on a podcast. I watched it recently after we talked about it. I went and watched it at work. And
at work.
I think it ties into this conversation.
I'm sorry, Tal. I went and watched it at work.
Dude, I watch movies on my phone all day. I literally watch movies all day. But I think it ties into this conversation because you do look at that movie and the way they played where they're good at golf, right? The last round to win it, he shot a 72. To get into these tournaments, they had to qualify with a 78. And those guys, they're obviously not thinking about weightlifting. They have different technology as well. And I think that it has made a difference. The guys working out more, new technology. I don't want to say new technology is like the big thing, but I even think if you go back to the old technology, the guys that are lifting weights, if it'll add 50 yards, that's almost a stroke taken away to the game. You can go on a par 5 if you hit it. So the guy's hitting it 220 back in the day. You hit it at least just 280 now. That could take an entire stroke, and you could be on the green in 2 rather than 3.
It's insane.
I'll say this.
The way the game has changed is absolutely insane.
I want to say this quick bit. I was on Facebook, and Golf Digest, I don't know if y'all follow Golf Digest on Facebook, but they do a lot of really cool videos sometimes. And one of them was they got I think it was like a club guy or something or another that like demos clubs, newer clubs, and he went through his whole bag, and they were showing like the distance he would hit his 5-iron, which was close to 200, 190, 200, something like that. I don't know about the tour averages for hitting a 5-iron. And then they gave him an old, like, hickory shaft 5-iron from back in the day. So now the lofts are different, the technology's different, everything is completely different. And I want to say he hit it about as far as he would hit a regular 8-iron.
The technologies aren't different. The technologies are
And
non-existent
he couldn't hit it
in
straight.
the hickory club. There is no technology in those hickory clubs.
Yeah,
It's just
it was cool.
It's wood.
It's just wooden. Yeah, it's wood. There's your technology.
I wouldn't be surprised if you
Golfers
give those to
would.
a new guy and they snap it when they swing. I really wouldn't.
Jake Owen said on a podcast they need to have a hickory stick classic and just have all of the PGA pros.
Dude,
Only
yeah.
hickory
That,
with
now
old
that's an
clubs.
idea. That would be
Wouldn't
sick.
that be
That
fun?
would be good.
That
They'd
would
have
be
to have
fun.
it'd have to be like a Major League Baseball game where each player has, in a Major League game, each player has like 6 or 7 bats
Yeah,
just
they
for
would
them.
need-
just
they
in
would need a
case. They'd
lot.
have to have like 6 or 7 of each club.
Bryson would
Especially
need
with the
18
the
drivers.
divots needed- oh man, Bryson wouldn't even play. Bryson would be like, those clubs are not good enough for me. They're not very
You make
good.
him sound dumb.
Next golf season,
Well,
Dude, well,
Hunter will be
speaking
out on
Brian,
the-
or not Brian, Scott, speaking of Bryson, didn't we have a genius of the week moment from him?
we do, man. It's our new segment of the week, Genius of the Week, which I'm sure listeners will realize very quickly that it has nothing to do with being a genius. So, Bryson, in his interview on Tuesday, was quoted saying the following. I'm just going to read 3 questions and his answers to the questions, and we will talk about how Bryson is such a genius. So the first question that was asked to Bryson, many people are interested in knowing what approach you're going to take this weekend because many of the players are dialing back using long irons, hybrids, and woods. And he cuts the guy off and says, I'm going to hit it as far as I possibly can up there. Even if it's in the rough, I can still get to the front edge or the middle of the green with pitching wedges or 9 irons. That's the beauty of my length. Okay, first off,
he ain't.
you ain't got to be a jerk about it, Bryson. Like, guys is asking a question. Okay, it's a good question. I work in sports media, as some other podcasters call them. I'm a big J journalist. All right, I do the interviews. I do. If you cut us off on a question, especially a good question like that, dude, that makes me mad. That
It's
sucks.
just going to irritate you for the rest of the interview.
Oh,
Right.
dude, and especially with those, because after Bryce and Tiger came up, because they were coming up as they were finishing their practice rounds on Tuesdays and doing the interviews, and like Tiger came up, and imagine like you only get one shot to ask these guys questions, because it's not like there's not 3 people in the room, the whole place behind the camera is packed, and it's one of those situations where you have to like literally raise your hand, and the moderator like picks you and hands you a mic, and you get to ask the question. So imagine like your one question in this really good, well thought out question, like, hey, we're playing at a really tough course this weekend. A lot of other guys are dialing back. What are you going to do? And you're like, oh, I'm just going to whatever. I'm just going to play my game because I'm so much longer than everybody else. Get out of here. That sucks. That sucks. And I'm gonna keep going. Next question. Do you have a lot of confidence because of your length over the field? Answer. It's not guaranteed if you lay up, you end up in the fairway. There are going to be times where people end up in the rough, and the person that's going to win is the person that hits the most fairways, makes the most putts, and also hits it on the green. I mean, it's a simple formula, obviously.
I mean, it's a simple formula, obviously.
That is word for word. Hey, Bryson, you think the guy that's going to win is going to hit the most fairways and make the most putts? You freaking idiot.
I just want to know, where was he going at with just because you lay up doesn't mean you're going to be in the fairway?
That's exactly right. Who knows?
I get it.
Who knows at this point?
I get it. Guys lay up to be precise and come up short of the green. It's a little chip and a putt, but I mean,
Oh my gosh! I have
Go far.
me hit bomb.
yeah, me hit ball. Oh my gosh! All right. So I have one more question, but the last part of the answer is what gets me.
Simple formula.
I mean, it's a simple formula, obviously. Like, what are you talking about, Bryson? Just sound normal for once, okay? We get it. You hit it farther than everybody else because you drink 6 protein shakes a day, okay? I mean, goodness gracious. Like, just be nice.
I saw him on an Instagram video. He was drinking a protein shake while eating his pizza. He ordered in New York pizza to the clubhouse because he likes New York pizza apparently, and he was sitting there drinking his little milk carton looking protein shake, eating pizza.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, that dude his bathroom schedule has got to be just a nightmare. As much protein shakes as he drinks.
How does he make it through 18 holes without going to the bathroom?
I don't know.
He detoxes.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure.
So next week, as some wall decor, I'm going to get a whiteboard and I'm going to draw Bryson's formula back here, and hopefully it'll probably take up the whole thing.
Bryson's secret stuff.
Yep, I got it. Write that down.
He'll probably catch wind of this and correct you on the formula and tell you it's wrong.
That's okay.
And then not even understand that we're absolutely roasting him and actually correct the formula for you. So last question.
You forgot to carry the 2.
Man. Yeah. The last question. This is the best one. How does your added strength help you play out of this type of rough? Answer. Well, I can swing it faster. That's word for word, ladies and gentlemen. I can swing it faster.
I'm going to be honest. That one makes a lot of sense, though.
It does make sense, but it's just really.
Of course it makes sense. But it's come on. Have some, listen.
You want some adventure? You want to have some creativity in the answer? Well, you know what? I swing the club at about 130 miles an hour compared to Joe Blow over here who swings at 94 miles an hour. So I'm going to, of course, hit the ball at a perfect angle, and it's going to go 30 yards farther out of the rough than they would.
Well, a well-thought-out answer is
what?
Most guys hit irons out of the rough. So, because I hit my 5-iron the same length that someone hit driver off the deck, okay, yeah, that's going to help me.
I'm going to use my putter and hit it 200 yards onto the green.
I'll tell you exactly why he didn't give that type of answer, Tal, because he gave it earlier in the interview, which I didn't even reference, but he actually said it. He was talking about how they asked him about the rough and how tall it was and what he thought about it, and he was like, well, it's fine because I can still use a 9-iron and swing it at over 110 miles per hour. Word for word, I swear. I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to bash him. He said that.
I mean, that's a fact, though.
That's probably why
so I don't see why that would be used against him if he's literally stating a fact.
Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, I'm going to get into this.
He shouldn't be in the rough in the first place because people in the rough lose.
Everybody goes in the rough. It's a hard course.
Yeah, but the guy that lands the most fairways, hits the most greens, and hits the most putts is going to win.
Which is
so
what
clearly he shouldn't be in the rough.
Well, he won, so.
Clearly.
Look, if someone knocked that dumbass hat he wore off, he might be a likable guy.
Yeah, that hat's bad. It's a bad hat.
Look, if you go out there and win the U.S. Open, you could go out there in some skimpies and a bucket hat. I wouldn't care.
Well, he got lucky.
Here's what I had to say.
Skimpies.
Is Bryson good at golf? Yes.
Yes.
Bryson's good at golf. Here's why I roast Bryson all the time. Bryson is the most unlikable person on tour, right behind Patrick Reed. Okay.
I don't know.
He's smart, soft. He's smart. I meant Bryson is in front.
Okay.
In front of. Okay. Sorry, I said behind. Bryson, he wears the hats. He's different in everything. He drinks the protein shakes. His caddy, he's a big baby. Fire ants. Let's bring up the fire ants and whatnot. He's a big baby. Okay. his caddy, has to jump in front of the camera so his face isn't on camera when he makes a bad shot, yada, yada. He's just the most unlikable guy on tour. And that's why I will always say that Bryson sucks.
I like him, so I genuinely
cannot wait to see
I
that.
think he plays a game how I would, where he just doesn't give a damn. He does not care what you have to say. He'll just go out there and play the way he wants to play. And I think it's more of like I can kind of respect that.
The best was Matthew Wolff making him putt out first. Like, Matthew Wolff wasn't just going to finish out and let him have the big moment. No. He said, you putt that motherfucker. I'll punish mine, and then we'll work on this deal.
Oh, gosh.
Down 5 strokes, playing like ass all day. And he said, nope, you go ahead, pal. I'll see you over there.
Wingfoot did not disappoint. And there's this thing out there, so, like, I knew this going in, but you don't see it very often. But there's actually, like, people out there that root for the course, right? They want the course
to win.
Just beat the crap out of the golfer. Yeah, they want the course to win. I happen to be one of those people. So we're going to talk about the course versus the player. So we see in the U.S. Open, as usual, is a golf course that just beats up on the pros. We saw it, this year at Wingfoot, last year at Pebble Beach, year before that, Shinnecock Hills, Erin Hills before that, Oakmont. It goes on and on. The U.S. Open is notorious for being an extremely tough golf course, okay? And I love that. Shinnecock Hills was my favorite because those guys could not stand the course. They hated it. And it was awesome because it brings them back to reality. It's like, hey, this is what normal golfers deal with on easy courses, right? So you see that. At what point, the question I want to ask, at what point is the course too difficult or too easy? Because on the other end, we see, like we've talked about already, a few weeks ago, Dustin Johnson wins at 30 under par. So, I mean, what do you prefer to see as a fan? What do you prefer to see? When is it too much? When is it too little?
I almost prefer it to be like how this weekend was. You had one guy under par to
Bryson
finish
was
out
only
the
guy under
tournament.
par.
The only guy.
I mean, it's a simple formula, obviously.
I almost like that more because it puts like a strain on the golfers to try and play better. It really shows who is not, I don't want to say in it to win it, but really dialed in and can get over a simple mistake easier than somebody else.
Mental toughness.
Yes.
They were intimidated. They were definitely intimidated.
Exactly. And I think that's a big thing. When you see intimidation from a course where it's like this, where a lot of guys, it is so difficult for them to just get underneath par. That's fun to watch. It really is, to see guys who have to make the perfect shots, not just get close. They have to make a perfect, almost perfect shot to get it where they want it to be.
Bryan, you were talking about it before we started hitting record about how hard the course was, and in comparison to DJ's 30 under par a few weeks ago. What do you think?
Just like Tao, I like when the players struggle. I don't know. I like it, but I don't like it. So like that's what I would prefer. But as far as like the greens go, I didn't really like to watch the guys putt. Like I want to be able to watch them, sink the occasional 50-footer or something like that, and it not be just a stimp like 16 or whatever on the stimp meter. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But like as far as the rough goes, and how for instance, that one guy lost his ball in the rough and had to go re-tee on the very first tee box.
Oh, so bad.
And they're hitting shots out of the rough that they would normally be able to stick right in the middle of the green and then be able to putt for birdie still, if they had a bad drive. Well, this time, a lot of times, and Bryson even had the same thing happen. I watched it happen to him. He got up there with like a 7-iron or something, and I mean he landed in the bunker way short of the green on a club that he thought he was going to land right in the center. It's like I love that aspect of it. I wish the greens were a little bit different. Maybe speed's fine. Maybe it's just the contours that are weird, or maybe vice versa. I don't know.
Well, I just love that. I love that the U.S. Open kind of claims that aura of this is going to be the hardest course that you're going to play the entire season.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do really like that. I think it's really unique, really cool. I root for the course every single weekend. I just do, because anytime I see a professional golfer that gets paid millions or 6 figures on a yearly basis to play the game that I go out and play leisurely, and they look normal, by making mistakes, I think it's awesome. So it makes me feel better about myself. So
it's entertaining.
I love rooting for it's entertaining. I love rooting for the course. What was so unique about this weekend, where we didn't see at Shinnecock and Erin Hills and Pebble Beach, is the greens. Is what you talked about, Bryan. The greens are so different. You have guys that are literally aiming the opposite direction of the hole and the pin on putts and putting the ball in like a complete different direction. And it's so cool. You saw those guys make it. And then you also saw guys that putted the opposite direction of the hole thinking it's going to do one thing and it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't like seeing is a Danny Lee situation where we have a 6-putt because the greens are tough and you're frustrated and you just try to putt. You just walk over the ball, don't look at it, and you putt out of frustration. And it ends up costing you 6 strokes because in the end, in the PGA Tour, 6 strokes can cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, and that sucks. But it's so unique because it brings those guys back down to earth. I think it's awesome. I just can't even imagine standing, much less standing, but playing on a golf course that has rough, where you can put a tall boy, can.
It was like this big.
And you go and it disappears. You have guys and there's marshals that are assigned to like standing in landing areas and making sure balls don't get lost, and we still have balls getting lost in grass, and it's amazing to me. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love that.
It was crazy for me to see how many times I obviously they showed Wolf and DeChambeau's group a lot this week, or today, but there were so many times that guys would putt and it would look like it was going to go right and it was straight, or it looked like it was going to go left and it went right. And the amount of times the guys watched it roll past the hole and then gave their caddy that look of like, oh my God, what were we thinking? And I do that 18 times around, probably
18
more.
times a hole.
Yeah.
Right. And it was so funny, kind of like Tal, you were saying, it kind of brings them back to reality. And you see almost like those guys looked like how we look when we normally play.
Yeah.
Granted, they were at the pros of the toughest course in the world, but they looked like how we usually do. And that look of, oh my God, what was I thinking? That was supposed to go right and it went straight left it's pretty cool. On a Saturday afternoon, maybe you didn't watch a tournament, you pull up your phone and you see that the leader's 18 under. Like, there's sometimes that, okay, that's kind of cool to see everybody stacked way up high at 18 and, 3 guys are tied at 16.
Something crazy. Like, they are playing good golf. Yeah.
Right. And, like, the DJ thing was a freak because he was just playing that good.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it just depends, but I don't know. I think there's fun to both sides, I guess, to really.
I love looking at the scoreboard this morning after, like, the first, they had the morning tee times.
Mm-hmm.
I love looking at the scoreboard when Rory teed off or, like, right around lunchtime. And you see guys on Sunday playing that have a score of like 15 over par on Sunday.
That's crazy.
I'm like, yes!
That's crazy. That's me.
It's me.
I can be on the PGA.
But granted, that's over a whole weekend, but still.
Oh, man. I saw an article that golf.com put out, what would an average 80s golfer shoot at Winged Foot? And it was talking about how, like, breaking 90 is probably not an option. And they based it off like a 10 handicap, which ironically enough is what I am. And they were like, a 10 handicap, would shoot in the, high 90s above 100, just based off the conditions alone when they play their best golf, which I was just like, I retweeted it and I was like, delete this article.
Just get it out of here. I don't want to see that. I don't want the truth. I don't want to know it.
So I'll wrap up this topic with this. Actually, in that article as well, it also talked about how unique Winged Foot is. They have 2 courses, and it is extremely private. You have to have a membership. But they don't do online tee times. So say all 4 of us are members at Winged Foot, and we're all playing by ourselves. The way you get your tee time is you just show up whenever you want to play. Whenever you're ready, or like when you get there and everybody that's playing with you is there. So if we're playing individually, and like as soon as we get there, we go and we take a ball and you put it next to the tee marker on the first tee. If your ball is closest to the tee, then you're up next. And so like if I got there first and somebody was there, I'd put my ball next to the tee marker. That means I'm next. Tal comes behind me. He puts his ball behind mine. That means he's after me. And that's how they do tee times. They don't use electronic tee times. Isn't that
cool?
Awesome?
That's crazy.
That's really cool.
But
Yeah,
it is also a very exclusive club or a club to play at. So that makes sense why it would work there. You go to Somerville and you do that, you're going to see 15 balls disappear.
And they're all going to be
exactly. Exactly.
They're all going to be
that was another thing. It was like, how could you, how do you manage this? How do you, keep your spot being taken whenever, or just like a timely manner? Because it's also a completely walking course. They don't even have golf carts. Like the golf carts that the marshals used this weekend to like run up and down the course was like they were borrowed. So the golf course is a 100% walking course. They have a strict policy of a max 4-hour round. So it's just so like it's
so you're
really different.
sprinting.
Well, I think it's just like
Crazy.
I don't know that they're going to kick you out at 4 hours. I think what they were saying was it's just they encourage like don't be a jerk and hold
It's fun.
quick play the game, don't jack around. So
Don't
That
play
that was
three
pretty cool.
balls.
I thought. But that was something I've never seen before. I thought that was extremely unique. So let's wrap up the show with the Corrales Puntacana Resort and Club Championship. That is the
Say that
tournament
4
this
times
weekend, and I
fast.
will-
No shit.
Exactly. I'm surprised I got it out that smooth the first time. But I will warn the folks listening at home, ain't no dudes in this tournament. but it is a PGA tournament. So as always, we will make our picks. There's no Rory, no Tiger, no Bryson, no Brooks, no Dustins. There's not a lot of guys in it. The biggest name that I could see on there was, Henrik Stenson, which I will go ahead and give away. That's my pick, Henrik Stenson. Well, it is what it is.
How dare you?
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. No big names, but I'm picking Henrik Stenson because back in 2015, Rory McIlroy PGA video game, that was my guy. So Henrik's my guy this week.
That makes sense.
Well, I forgot my PXG jacket in the closet. I'm in the middle of moving. It's probably in a box somewhere, but I'll pull my PXG boy Pat Perez out for the weekend because he's about the third biggest name there. So,
Dude, I'm so mad.
and he cut the mullet off. I saw that.
Oh.
Got her cut down. Got rid of that ugly ass goatee. So
I
maybe he's
couldn't
ready
believe,
to go.
man.
Look aerodynamic.
I couldn't believe that last weekend. I've picked Bryson the last month. Every single episode. I switch it up one time, and he wins.
You must be bad luck.
Crazy.
Crazy.
I was pissed. I should have just never picked him. He would have
Stick
won the
with your
last
guy,
4
man.
weekends.
Pick him this week.
Stick with your guy.
Yeah, right?
Picking this. He's making a late appearance as an alternate.
Ugh. I
100%.
looked over this, like you said. There's a lot of names that we don't normally know, or you wouldn't. The normal golfer, normal watcher wouldn't know who they are. The biggest name that I came up with and that I saw a lot of information about as he's got a chance to win the tournament was Mackenzie Hughes. And that's who I'm going to go with because I've seen a lot of different websites say that he's got a chance to win this one. He was up there in like the power rankings for this tournament. So that's who I'm going to go with for this weekend.
Good pick. He's played well this
Yes.
year. He's been up there a few times.
Chow, I'm going to pick the same guy. And that's just because I've heard his name before. Don't really know if he's a great golfer or not.
No,
He could be horrible. He
And
could be,
I'm right there with you.
nice
Like I've
guy.
heard the name before. I've never really sat down and watched him because we normally watch the big names that we all know and quote unquote love. So
Yeah. What if
So,
I
big
saw
news,
Scott Brown was playing? What if Kiz carries his bag? Wouldn't that
that'd
be
be awesome.
Wouldn't that be something?
Awesome.
that would be cool.
That's it, man. That's this week's episode. Bryan, Hunter, Tal, thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, sir.
Tal, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything you do behind the scenes, and basically thanks for being the founder of this whole thing, bud.
Yes, sir.
I would like
We love
also
you.
to say, we love you, Tal. Thank you to the listeners. You guys are such good friends of ours, and we love having you along. Please don't forget to give us feedback. Anything that you want to hear on the show or any questions that you have about golf, send it in to us. I promise you we will not miss it. We will put it on the show. We love fan interaction. Find this episode and any other episode of Around the Pin wherever you fulfill your podcast needs. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and YouTube if you want to watch the stream. So that'll be it. We got our handles in at the beginning of the episode, so go follow us on all of our social media, and we really appreciate it. And as always, don't forget to pluff your futts. Peace, guys. See you next week.